Let's go ahead and talk about James Fenimore Cooper and the Leatherstocking Tales for our training session today. This is going to be one of the authors that deeply impacted early American literature and continues to have influence on the stories that are written even up until today. For our training session, keep in mind we're just covering the basics, and our objective is to explore the life and works of James Fenimore Cooper with a focus on his series, The Leatherstocking Tales, and why that series was particularly important to American literature and its growth. Now, James Fenimore Cooper is known as one of the first major American novelists. Think New Country, People Moving to It. Takes a little bit of time for things to get established or to get the respect that it perhaps deserves. James Fenimore Cooper is one of those people who started to bring that. His work often explored themes of adventure, the American frontier, and interactions between Native Americans and European settlers. And of course, these were things that people were interested in reading about kind of worldwide. Now, as we get into it, let's look at his early life and influences. First off, this guy was born all the way back in September of 1789 in New Jersey. So again, think very early America. He grew up in Cooperstown, New York, which was founded by his father. The frontier life of this area influenced many of his novels. So his father actually founded a major U.S. city. Education in an early career was that he attended Yale College but was expelled for a prank. He then joined the Navy, which provided material for his sea stories. I had to dig a little bit, interestingly, but I found that he was actually expelled from Yale after a dangerous prank involving blowing up a friend's door to like his dorm room. He just like blew it up. He probably would not have been expelled for that, but he was expelled because he had previously locked a donkey in a room, which is pretty terrible, as another prank. So those things kind of added up, and he ended up getting expelled from college, and that probably influenced his life a whole lot. His literary beginnings, he began writing at first the way a whole lot of people do, just to entertain family. But his work quickly gained popularity, as a lot of writers tend to do. They share it with family first, then friends, then somebody picks it up. His early works included the novel The Spy from 1821, and that novel was based on the American Revolutionary War. As you'd imagine from a lot of things written around this time, they were influenced heavily by world events, with the American Revolutionary War being a big influence there. Cooper became famous with the publication of The Pioneers in 1823. This is the first of the Leatherstocking Tales, which is a name that you need to remember. Now, the Leatherstocking Tales background and context. The Leatherstocking Tales is a series of 5 novels set in the early American frontier. The series follows the adventures of Natty Bumppo, a frontiersman also known as Hawkeye, Deerslayer, and Pathfinder. There's going to be a whole lot of kind of like names or that we're looking at with the names of these books and things like that. Just try, if you can't get anything else, to get that the Leatherstocking Tales was written by James Fenimore Cooper, and it's 5 books that follow the adventures of someone named Natty Bumppo. The historical context of this is that these books are set during the late 18th and early 19th centuries. These novels depict the wilderness and the conflicts between settlers and Native Americans. Here's an old page from one of those published books, The Deerslayer. Now, let's briefly run through these books, their titles, when they were published, and what they're about, just with a snapshot. The Pioneers was published in 1823. Natty Bumppo, known as Leatherstocking, is introduced as an old man who represents the fading frontier. The Last of the Mohicans, published in 1826, is perhaps the most famous of the series. It tells the story of Natty, called Hawkeye, and his Mohican friends during the French and Indian War. Prairie from 1827, Natty, now very old, travels to the western plains, symbolizing the westward expansion of America. The Pathfinder, published in 1840, is set during the French and Indian War. Natty, known as Pathfinder, guides a party through dangerous territory. And The Deerslayer from 1841 is a prequel that depicts a young Natty, then called Deerslayer, on his early adventures. There's a little bit of confusion for things like academic team. I've seen questions ask the order, like chronologically, that the series takes place, as well as publishing order, this would be the publishing order. Themes in the Leatherstocking Tales include nature and civilization, or the conflict and coexistence between the untamed wilderness and encroaching civilization. As you expand and as you build things in areas that were once wild or once frequently owned by other people, how does that impact the world around you? Heroism and individualism. Natty Bumppo embodies the American ideal of rugged individualism and heroism. In cultural conflict, the interactions and conflicts between Native American cultures and European settlers. Now, there were other important works by Cooper. We mentioned The Spy, which was a novel about espionage during the American Revolution. The Pilot is considered the first American sea novel, period. It draws on Cooper's naval experiences. And The Red Rover is another sea novel that combines adventure with deep character studies. You see a lot of adventure stories from this time. People really love to read about adventures. Now, that was just a very brief overview of who James Fenimore Cooper was, why his work was important to early American literature. He's basically one of the first who had extremely popular adventure stories like that, and how he wrote the Leatherstocking Tales. Now, I wanted you to remember the name of the hero of the Leatherstocking Tales. Was the name Injun Joe, Silas Phelps, Natty Bumppo, or Jim Conklin? These are names from various famous classic works. Which one of those was the name of the protagonist of this series? If you remember that the name was Natty Bumppo, and you are correct, Natty is a skilled frontiersman who goes by various nicknames, including Hawkeye, not the like Marvel Avengers character, but probably influenced it, Deerslayer, and Pathfinder. This character is from Mark Twain's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. This one is from Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And this one is from Stephen Crane's The Red Badge of Courage. That wraps up our video discussion of the Leatherstocking Tales and James Fenimore Cooper. Let's go ahead and cap it there.